I remember the last day of school when I was in second grade. My mother had bought me a pink t-shirt and these adorable pink flowered shorts. It's probably the last time I wore pink, but that's another story. And I loved this outfit. It was the last day of school, and I wanted to wear it to school. And she said, no, don't wear it to school, Penny. It's a special outfit, and we'll save it, for a special occasion. And I said, but I love it so much, and it's the last day of school, and so she gave in. Now, our house in New Hampshire was just really a big field away from the elementary school where I went, the brick elementary school. In fact, I remember another moment when I was in second grade. We had a big thunderstorm, as we often do in New England and New Hampshire, and my German Shepherd was afraid of thunderstorms and ran all the way across the field, got into my classroom, and slept under my desk the rest of the day because she was afraid. That's how close we were. So recess came on that last day, and I was feeling all preeny, in my nice outfit. And at lunch, the boys asked me to play baseball with them, which, of course, was my very favorite thing to do. So I quickly said yes, and before long, I got up to bat, and sure enough, hit what I thought was a double, running. Oh, I forgot to tell you it had rained the day before. So I was coming around first base, and I saw that the fielder was throwing it to second, and I ran faster, and then I slid into second base, right in the middle of a huge mud puddle. But I was safe. I'm not talking a little mud. I'm talking one full half side of my body caked. So I went back into the classroom, and my teacher just said, oh, no. Home to change. So I went home, and I walked in the door, and my mother looked at me, and I said, I hit a double, and I was safe. And she just laughed. She peeled the clothes off, threw them in the wash machine, put on something, sent me back to school. It was a great ending. It was a brave ending to a story, right? Because I hadn't lived long enough to make up all the stories of the other endings that could have happened, which is what it's so easy for us to do when we're older. I just thought, what is the greatest thing about this moment? I played with the boys, I hit a double, and I was safe, and my team won. That's all that mattered. It's not quite so easy when we get older. This whole month, we've been looking at Rising Strong. And clearly, if you haven't picked up the theme that the service so far is about rising strong, first we looked at asking ourselves, do I believe that people are doing the best they can with the tools they have? Next week, we looked at reckoning, facing the truth about ourselves with wisdom from Yoda. Luke asked, what's in the cave? What did Yoda say? Only what you take with you. Then we begin to rumble, the second phase of Rising Strong. Rumble with our own stories, get deeply curious and go into them, and not being afraid to feel what's going on in those stories. First week, we rumbled with expectations, disappointments, and resentments. And last week, we rumbled with shame and despair and regret. We looked at Jesus' words, be perfect as God in heaven is perfect, which really meant be whole. Wholeness is what I'm leading you to. And remember that through it all, and then today we get to revolution or rising through it all, that rising strong is a process, but it's a practice. It's a practice. We don't deny the story, but we deny the ending. That ability to reset. And she calls it revolution because she wants it to be really clear that it's groundbreaking transformation. When you think of a revolution, you think of a whole change in governance, right? A structure. And that's what she's saying can happen emotionally and intellectually. In Rising Strong, we can learn a new way when we fall to rise. And as the Zen saying goes, fall down 53 times, get up 54. We practice this process until it becomes a practice across all areas of our lives. I can say it is changing me as a parent, as a pastor, as a friend. And we are called to brave and wholehearted living. And it might seem counterintuitive, but brave living really is the willingness to be vulnerable, to show up and to be seen with no guaranteed outcome. Got it? All right. Those of you online, go ahead and put little cute things in the chat that I can look at later, if you would. Vulnerability, Brené Brown says, is the only path to more joy, more love, and more belonging. I tried to practice vulnerability a couple Sundays ago when I talked about my own experience of not feeling enough, translating into when I got really down deep to it, that I'm not enough. It wasn't easy to be vulnerable like that with you all. But we only do this together. We do this together. And it leads us to wholehearted living. And Brené Brown says, and this is really what I think that Jesus was trying to get across. He may have used different language. Brené Brown says wholehearted living is living from a place of worthiness. Waking up in the morning and saying, no matter what I get done today or what I leave undone, I am still worthy. It's going to bed at night. And before falling asleep saying, yeah, I made some mistakes today. I was imperfect. But I still belong. I am still loved. And I am enough. Wholehearted living and brave living. Brave living requires us to be vulnerable and to recognize the power of emotions and to be willing to lean into the discomfort that happens when we face our own truths. Never said the process was easy, but it is life-giving. Brave living chooses different endings. Brave living chooses to go ahead and feel hurt rather than offloading hurt on someone else. Brave living means that you allow yourself to feel disappointed rather than live disappointed. I've had this little mantra that I made up for this. When I stumble, start to rumble. When I stumble, start the rumble. I've practiced that recently, and it has really helped. When I feel myself starting to go into that place where I want to react, where I want to offload, where I want to blame, where I want to have expectations, I begin, okay, whoa, what story? Let me rumble here. What story am I telling myself again? Is this the path I want, or do I want to choose another way? Because wholehearted and brave living and rising strong is also about integrity. Taking responsibility for my own well-being and staying in alignment with the values that I cherish the most deeply. And I don't know about you, but I like myself a whole lot better when I'm living my values. I'm uncomfortable when I'm outside of my values. It's not a place of groundedness. It's not a place of love. And so when I start to feel myself getting out of that alignment, that's the time to practice rising strong. One of my closest friends does a lot of meditating, and she said recently to me after she'd been on an online meditation retreat for a week, she said her teacher said, kind of for him, the purpose of meditation. Meditation trains the mind to be in service of the heart. Trains the mind to be in service of the heart. And I think this is what this Rising Strong process does. Helps train the mind to be in service of the heart, that heart space where we want to be more loving, we want to be more compassionate, we long to be more joyful. That's what our heart truly wants. And when we're out of touch with that is when we're off center. Rising Strong is at the heart of the Christian tradition, the death and resurrection. The falling, the dying, does not have the final word. Rising, redemption, resurrection has the final word. Our sacred texts are full of stories about people rising strong, and today the one Fred beautifully read for us, the story of Zacchaeus. Some of you know this from your growing up, perhaps sang songs about it even. Zacchaeus was a chief tax collector, meaning he worked for the Roman occupation. He worked for the Roman Empire. And he collected taxes from Jews. He himself was a Jew. So he wasn't part of the Romans, and he wasn't part of the Jewish community either. Tax collectors were known to take more than their share, to exact extra from people. They were among the despised for sure, collaborating with the enemy. So he was the chief despised. But Zacchaeus chose a different ending in this story. Jesus is coming to town, and he's short, so he climbs a tree so that he can see Jesus. But what he didn't know was that Jesus was about to see him. And when Jesus does, he looks at him and says, Zacchaeus, I'm coming to your house today. Zacchaeus could have been in his story and said, oh, no, you're not coming to my house. Nobody comes to my house. A, it's not picked up. B, I haven't prepared lunch. And C, I never have company because nobody likes me. He didn't say any of that. He simply responded. He hurried down and welcomed Jesus. He was willing, and Jesus was willing. And I believe it's because Jesus spoke to him from that place of inherent belovedness and unconditional acceptance. And Zacchaeus felt that. So he was willing to respond, and he wrote a completely different ending. And oh yes, people grumbled about who Jesus was hanging out with. People always grumble. People will grumble. That's a given. You know how some things never change? That never changes. People will grumble and criticize. You know what, though? He didn't even get into that story either. Because they were in their story. Why is Jesus hanging out with him? Why not me? I'm a way better person than that chief tax collector. Why hang out with him? He's short. Why not hang out with someone taller? They're in their stories. Zacchaeus chose a different ending and said to Jesus, I will give whatever I've taken, I'll give back fourfold. I'll give generously. I'll do this. He made restitution. He wanted to choose a different path. He wanted to rise strong. Here's the greatest news of all. We do not have to do any of this alone. The great poet Rumi says, we are all walking each other home. And that's what we're trying to do. That's what spiritual community is about. I'll close with this. Brene Brown says, take a 1-inch square piece of paper. She said, on that piece of paper, write down the names of the people who really matter to you. If you have more names than that, edit. These are the people who love you not despite your imperfections and vulnerabilities, but because of your imperfections and vulnerabilities. And when you fall, these people will say, wow, that hurt. But I'll help you get up. These people on this square, They hold you accountable. Accountable to who they know you most desire to be. And friends, if you have one name on this paper, you are blessed. You are blessed. Someone in your life who will love you no matter what, who will tell you the truth about yourself, and will hold you to your best self while loving you along the way. Brene Brown says she carries this piece of paper in her wallet. And when people grumble and complain and criticize, she just takes that out and she says, are any of those people on this list? Nope, okay. And so, let's remember, when we deny our stories, they define us. When we run from struggle, we are never free. So we turn toward truth and we look it in the eye. And those of us who want to be brave, we will not be characters in our stories. We will not be victims or villains, not even heroes. We are the authors of our lives. We write our own daring endings. We craft love from heartbreak, compassion from shame, grace from disappointment, and courage from failure. Because, beloved, showing up is our power. Story is our way home. Truth is our song. Because we are the brave and brokenhearted, and we are rising strong. Amen.